Oh. Oh. Aw, jeez. What's Oliver trying to do to us here?
This week we're going to examine one of the two universal human experiences. It's an unavoidable facet of old folks' homes, hospitals, the life insurance industry, crime, wars, and your worst nightmares. This is going to be hilarious! Yes, this week we're going to be reviewing the idea of hilarious death. Now, it's true that nobody really likes to think about their own death, but that truism does a 180-degree sharp turn when you get them trying to think about how they could have a hilariously awesome way to perish. But I can't say as I've ever been particularly fond of the go-to hilarious death fantasy for guys, which generally revolves around being really old, piloting your own private jet, but then crashing that jet because you were simultaneously piloting it and making love to enough sexy ladies to form a modest book club. That's more the kind of death that will make sure that nobody feels sorry for you. It isn't so much an amusing death. Though an element of the ludicrous is great to have, it doesn't have to be larger than life like the sexy jet fiasco. Take the death of Tycho Brahe, a 16th century nobleman and astronomist who is also the namesake of one of the guys from Penny Arcade. His death really contributes to our idea of courtly etiquette as being ludicrously rigid. Tycho died from a bladder infection, you see, because he refused to leave the table of an hours-long banquet because, of course, that would be rude? Keep this in mind if the Queen of England ever invites you over for dinner. Simon Fraser demonstrates many of the great ingredients you can have to make a death hilariously awesome. The unexpected, spite, and a historical landmark. A Scottish Jacobite who changed allegiances the way changes their... Simon Fraser eventually was put to death for choosing the wrong side. The last individual to be executed at London's infamous Tower Hill, Fraser got something of a last laugh when one of the stands constructed to hold spectators to his death unexpectedly collapsed, killing 20 of the people who'd come out to watch him die just for something to do. Pretty awesome, huh? But one of the downsides of having a hilarious death is that what should be the punctuation mark can end up being pretty much the whole story as far as most people are concerned. Take the case of Kenneth Pinion, an American Boeing engineer who, had other interesting events in his life and probably beautiful moments with friends and family, but unless you were friends or family when he died, you probably will only ever remember about him his coming to an end due to overly vigorous horseplay? See what I did there? It really doesn't help that a documentary was made in direct response to his lifestyle of equine seduction under the alias of Mr. Hands. Plus, I'm sure they talk about other parts of his life, but it's a dead giveaway what they focus on when you look at the poster they made. Lord knows I can sympathize after seeing the poster they did for the documentary on my life. Mr. Pinion's death also brings up the fact that you should have a hilarious death that you find hilarious. Now, a hilarious death is a tricky product for me to review for you guys, because unless you commit suicide, there's really no way to choose your death. But the problem is, of course, that suicide adds a horrible element to things that smothers any hilarity. Plus, in general, death is still death, even if hilarious. But if you decide that a hilarious death is the way for you to go, well then you better get ready to commit some crimes, because as I see it, your best possibility is to aim for being executed. See, you might get lucky like Simon Fraser, or you might be able to choose your own death, like George Plantagenet, a 16th century English duke known for his alcoholism, who chose to be drowned in 105 imperial gallons of Malmsey wine. A 105 imperial gallon container of wine was known as a butt of wine. If I ever have a terminal disease, or I'm, getting on in years and decided that I've had enough, then I think what I'm going to do is go to China and commit some crimes that'll get me in front of a firing squad. All it'll take is one jumpsuit lined with several pounds of sparkly glitter, and those guys will be busting a gut. This episode topic and some of its examples came to us from a dedicated handful fan by the name of Sylvia, aka YouTube user Vita1892. It was her entry in our Perfectly Wonderful and Horrible Things competition from back in September of this year. Sylvia's not only won an episode on the topic she suggested, she's also got this one-of-a-kind screen-printed t-shirt made for her by yours truly. Hilarious Death might not seem that crazy when compared to some of the other topics we've covered, but it got right at the heart of the Perfectly Wonderful and Horrible Things concept behind the contest and our show in general. When you consider how, depending on the context, death can make us piss our pants in fright or piss our pants laughing, then that seems like just the right marriage of extreme contrasts to be perfectly wonderful and horrible. I react to most things with urine. Would you like us to do another contest? What kind of contest? What kind of prizes? Well, you can tell us through all the usual channels. See you next week.